It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the movies of January 29th, 1993. Four movies to look at today, a couple that I haven't seen, but a couple of good movies. So it's a good mix this time around, so let's go ahead and jump on into it. We'll start off with the first movie that we have here, the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is Tom Berenger and Billy Zane in the action thriller Sniper.
He's a shadow. He's out there. Somewhere. Waiting.
There's a major coup planned for Election Day in Panama. Ochoa's drug cartel is bankrolling it.
Fighting a war no army can win.
We have less than 1 week to prevent that.
But a single bullet,
Range me.
can.
This is Alvarez, and that's where you'll find him. Heavily guarded, inside and out.
But this time, he set his sights too high.
National Security Council is sending a guy along to help shoot her. Has he ever been in a jungle? Just trust me. Anybody the NSC sends down here is going to be fully qualified.
And his only backup is a new recruit.
You want to survive this, right? Do as I tell you to the letter. I think you got a chance.
You don't have any choice about it. Our contact is dead.
We're going where they'll never expect us.
Sniper.
Why do I feel like this movie was written for all the big action stars of the time period? Like, I feel like this movie was written for guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Jean-Claude Van Damme, especially Sylvester Stallone. I keep thinking that because when you listen to the Tom Berenger in this trailer, he does sound a little too much like Stallone when he was playing Rambo and all that. I really think that the director of this really wanted to get him, but they probably couldn't get him because of scheduling issues on another movie. But this director, Luis Lulosa, would actually work with him later on with The Specialist a year later. So I guess it all worked out in the end. But as far as this movie goes, it's okay for what it is. I feel like it's a movie that Tom Berenger was making to try to get him to become the next big action star. But I mean, he was already a prolific actor at the time. He was in Platoon. He was in Major League. He did a lot of other movies, notable movies. But it's not that this movie is bad or anything. It just feels very generic. It feels like a movie where you kind of know what's going to happen. You kind of know how it's going to pan out. You can tell what the action sequences are going to be like, or the violence levels. And it could be fun at times. I mean, Billy Zane is having the time of his life in here. He was actually cast in this after what he started Dead Calm. And he was also in the Back to the Future movies, and it kind of helped raise his profile as a prolific actor. And usually when he's in a movie, he's usually having the time of his life playing whatever role you put him in. And he's really one of the best things about this movie in particular. But other than that, though, it's a movie it's not bad. It's not a bad movie per se, but it's not a classic movie by any means. And the fact that this movie spawned not just one sequel, not two, not three, 8 sequels, 8 direct-to-video sequels that continue to this very day. And it wasn't until later on in the series that they actually brought Billy Zane back because his career had gone down so far that he was kind of reduced back to these direct-to-DVD movies. It's amazing that this series has lasted as long as it has because, honestly, the movie didn't even do that well at the box office at the time. It was like a movie that it made money. I think it made like $19 million, and I don't know what the budget was, but it probably wasn't that expensive to make, especially even with people like Tom Berenger and Billy Zane in there. But I don't know. I just don't understand how this became a franchise. But then again, how does anything with a franchise that's mostly direct-to-DVD usually get made? They usually just take the title of a known movie, stick it onto something that probably makes no sense to the actual story and has no connection to the actual movie, but they're still going to put it out there anyway so they can make a quick buck. That's probably what I think happened with this movie. and these movies that came afterwards. But as far as the movie itself goes, it's just okay. It's a movie that I saw once, and I was just kind of like, at least I didn't hate it. Like, there's many movies that are like this that I did indeed hate, but not this movie. This one was just kind of like, all right, you got me with that one. It's not. I'm glad I kind of saw it. Never gonna probably watch it again, but I guess its legacy is in those sequels. But 8 sequels, man. Like, some movies can't even get 1 sequel. This thing gets 8 of them. But that's pretty much all I got to say about Sniper. It's okay for a one-time watch, but other than that, there's no real point in watching it over and over again. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie. What I think is easily the best new release of the weekend, and that is John Goodman and Joe Dante's comedy Matinee.
How could such a thing happen, Dr. Cabal?
The ant's saliva must have gotten into Bill's bloodstream and gone straight to his brain, just as the radiation, which is measured in units called Roentgens, was released.
And that's how he became a...
Mant.
Gotcha.
For the kids of Key West, Florida, there was nothing scarier than a monster matinee.
Lawrence Wolfe, the master of movie horror, exterminates you with Matt.
The story of Matt is based on scientific fact, on theories that have appeared in national magazines.
But in the fall of 1962,
A series of offensive missile sites is now in preparation on the island of Cuba.
they got the biggest scare of all.
They're gonna bomb us?
The country is on red alert.
What a perfect time to open a new horror movie.
That'd be the best show to take a girl to.
The whole world's gonna blow up anyway, so we should just do whatever we want.
You know, last guy she went out with in her farm school?
He did teach me a lot.
What about?
About my body.
Think if the bomb were about to fall, she'd do it with me?
Wait till you see the feelers on this thing. Some of it's stage lighting, some of it's magic show stuff, but the big studios, none of them have anything like it. You never, ever turn one above 6.
This is it!
From Joe Dante, director of Gremlins.
You see what he's putting back? The showmanship. The bombs are falling!
You think this is some kind of picnic for me?
I'm still concerned about that bomb thing.
Little question of taste?
No, but your younger patrons, you could have some seat wetness.
John Goodman,
I love this business.
Matinee.
Man, I'm seeing this twice.
This movie is one of the most fun times you will ever have watching a movie. It's one of the most underrated movies ever made. One of Joe Dante's most underrated movies, maybe the most underrated movie of his long, prolific career. And it's just an amazing movie. It's a movie that is great for film buffs, it's great for people that don't even like movies all that much. You can still find so much in this movie to really love and appreciate. The casting is just great. John Goodman, who at this point was trying to find a way to branch out as a leading actor, and he had movies that were good opportunities, just missed opportunities overall, like stuff like King Ralph, and then The Babe, and then he does this movie where he's amazing in this, playing Lawrence Woosley. He's playing this William Castle type independent filmmaker who's making these movies of the time period of this time period, the 1950s, 1960s, and the home front being the Cuban Missile Crisis. That was a great concept to have that as the backdrop of this movie. The rest of the cast overall is great. You got Kathy Moriarty in here, Robert Picardo, Kelly Martin. You have an unknown Naomi Watts in this movie who has a cameo within the film, within the film. And the movie is just a ton of fun, man. It's a movie that you can go into this movie having the time of your life watching it, just for the visual look, the comedy, the casting. Everything about this movie is just so brilliant. It's so amazingly funny. And I'm so happy that this movie has gone on to have a cult following over the years. It's coming up on a 30th anniversary as of the time I'm recording this in the next couple of months. If you haven't seen Matinee, do yourself a favor and go check it out, because you will not be disappointed by this movie. It's funny, it's well made, it's visually stunning, visually creative. I can't say any more about this movie. Matinee, it easily is the best new release of the weekend, one of the best movies of '93. It's just a great movie overall. You're doing yourself a huge disservice if you don't go out and see it at least once. So, there you go. That's my thoughts on Matinee. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is the sequel, Children of the Corn 2, The Final Sacrifice.
An evil from another dimension has possessed the children.
She is the first to be sacrificed!
It's controlling their minds and feeding their hate. They're home alone, but their parents are never coming back. Children of the Corn 2, The Final Sacrifice.
Yes, The Final Sacrifice, because clearly they're never going to make any more movies after this one. Oh wait, they actually made 9 more of these movies after this one. It's just like... And some of them were remakes. There was actually 2 remakes of Children of the Corn that came out in 2009 and more recently in 2020, directed by the same brilliant man that gave us such great movies as Ultraviolet and Equilibrium. I know people like Equilibrium, but I don't. And Ultraviolet is just a terrible movie overall, but that's a whole other thing altogether. But Children of the Corn 2, The Final Sacrifice. Definitely not The Final Sacrifice because they kept making these movies because, let's face it, anytime you put the final on any horror sequel and it actually does well at the box office or makes somewhat of a profit, they're just going to keep going until they beat the dead horse for good. I mean, anyone remember Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare? That was the last time we saw Freddy Krueger, right? What about Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter? That was the last time we saw Jason Voorhees. Yeah, bottom line, stop calling your movie final unless you're actually going to make them final. Well, the Saw movies are another example. Saw The Final Chapter. Never saw him again. Never saw the Jigsaw again after that. But, yeah, you kind of get my point. And chances are, and you could probably tell that this movie was not very good compared to the first movie that came out 8 years ago. Did not get good reviews. Like I said, it made its money back, so keep making the sequels, and of course, clearly that wasn't going to be the end of the series. That's pretty much all I got for you on this one. Children of the Corn 2, The Final Sacrifice. Let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, and that is Nemesis.
As a human being, his life is more dangerous with each sunrise.
So it's a Terminator and Mad Max knockoff. That's pretty much all I got for you on that one. Okay. I'll be honest, I haven't seen this movie. I can't really comment on it too much, but I mean, come on, that trailer was trying way too hard to try not to be a Terminator knockoff, and it didn't even try at that. But okay, I guess it's not really a knockoff of Terminator, but I mean, listen to this premise. Set in a near-future world populated by androids, the film centers on Alex Rain, played by Olivier Gruner, a cybernetically enhanced ex-counterterrorism operative charged by his former employees with assassinating his former lover, the leader of an underground militant group. So technically, it isn't really a Terminator or a Mad Max knockoff, but it definitely has the feel of one. I mean, if you actually look at the full trailer for this, you can definitely tell that there's a lot of elements that look very Terminator-ish and Mad Maxes, but, I mean, who knows? I mean, it actually has pretty decent reviews at 60%, which is much higher than I would have thought for a movie. Excuse me. Lost my train of thought. But like I said, it's a movie that you would not look at this and say that has how does that have a 60% rating on Rotten Tomatoes? I mean, 60% isn't great, but it's certainly a lot better than you would think it would be. But, I mean, who knows? Maybe there's actually something there that I'm missing here. I mean, maybe there is a lot more to this that I haven't seen before, but, I'm certainly not going to rush out to see it, but, I guess I can kind of take back that maybe it isn't so much a Terminator or Mad Max knockoff, but, again, that trailer definitely shows a lot of Terminator and Mad Max-esque to it. So that's pretty much all I got for you on Nemesis for real this time, but that's pretty much it. So on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll jump into February the next time around, February 5th, with 6 movies in particular, including the spoof comedy National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1 with Emilio Estevez and Samuel L. Jackson, Jodie Foster in Summersby, the remake of The Vanishing with Keith Sutherland and Jeff Bridges, Disney's Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey, The Cemetery Club, and To Want to Fly. So we'll look at those 6 movies next time around. But until then, thank you very much for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. And until then, as always, take care.